Welcome to Beat Skematix. My name is Joe Hanley, and I'm going to show you how to recreate the beat from Jay-Z's Empire State of Mind. I'm going to be focusing on how to get each instrument to sound like they do on the record, as well as how to play each part and program the drum machine, and how to mix the whole thing so it's nice and loud and it sounds professional. I'm using Reason 4, but these techniques can be applied to any software like Logic or Ableton, so regardless of your setup, you should be able to follow along. You can download the Reason session file and the MIDI files at www.joehanleymusic.com/beatschematics. Let's get started. So here is the beat that you heard during the beginning of this video. It's just the chorus looping. That's all we're going to focus on today. Over here, we have the same session, except none of the playing is here. None of the MIDI, nothing I played is down. And all the effects are turned off. So here are just the drums. So you probably noticed it sounds similar, but there's a lot of like grit missing, the dirt's missing. It's not really punching out of the speakers like it was before. So here are the different samples. When you pick samples, you want to get as close to the recording as you can. We all have different samples, and we can't get exactly like their recording because we may not have the same samples. You want to use your ear. Literally go back and forth between your session and the actual recording and check every sample you use to see if it matches. Here's my bass drum. Here's snare, another snare, because I couldn't find one snare that fit the bill. I had to layer two. Together they sound like this. Kind of fat. And then two hi-hats over here. This one and this one. Now this kick drum, I had to do things like raise the pitch of it to make it sound more like his. When it was raw, it was just kind of low, didn't sound much like the record. These snare drums, like I said, I had to layer. The one over here, I had to raise the pitch, adjust it. So it's a lot of experimentation until you get it right. You really have to have patience until you get the sound you're looking for. Over here, the two hi-hats, it's actually the same sample. I just took this sample, put it in over here, and shortened the length. Here's what it sounded like before I did that. I made it quieter as well. As you can see here, this level is lower than this level. And shortened the length. That way, it sounds like, he's playing the same hi-hat. Just one time it's kind of open, the other time it's closed. So it sounds much more real. Down here is the actual drum beat programmed. It's a 2-measure beat, 8 beats total. So that's 32 16th notes. So you would want to use 32 steps on your drum machine. And I'll just let you take a look at each of them. You can pause the video if you want to write it down or whatever. But here is the kick drums. As you'll see, some of the buttons are red, some are yellow. That signifies how hard the kick drum's being hit. The red ones are hard, and these sort of yellowish ones are kind of a medium. That's what gives it more of a a groove, a human feel. If you took that away, it would be a little stiff. So it's really important to listen for that in the recording if you hear certain drums being quieter or louder than others. That's the first measure right there. Here's the second. Now going over to the snare, both snares are the same. It's just 2 and 4, and then the next measure, just 2. And then over the hi-hats, nothing on beat 1, and then 2 and 3 and 4 and second measure, 1 all the way to 3 and then nothing on the last beat. The other hi-hat basically just squeezes in between this hi-hat. So when you take a look at that one, you'll see them all shift. So that way they're alternating. And that's the same deal as the other hi-hat. So this is what the beat again sounds like. Now, some of these sounds need adjusting, particularly the snare. So we turn on this compressor up here. that gets a real nasty snare sound. You can see the thresholds all the way down to make sure it compresses every single time. Didn't need a whole lot of compression, so the ratio's not too high. The attack is very quick, so I want really to smash down on this snare, and the release is quick as well, because the snare itself is going to be very quick. I had to raise the output gain quite a bit, because this compression really made the snare drum quiet. One more thing for the snare is a little reverb. I had this set up as an insert effect, a send effect, which is why right here, where the snare is, you see the auxiliary send going there. That way you just get a little bit of the reverb added to it. And one very important thing to do is use a plate reverb. Most reverbs have that kind of preset in them, or they're just a plate reverb. And also, you want to take an EQ and take the lows out of it. If I bring it back in, you'll hear a little bit more stuff. And right now it sounds fine either way. But when you bring it into the mix, you'll see that it can really clog the mix. The last thing for the drums is the hi-hat. It's a little too nice, so we're going to dirty it up using distortion. And it didn't take much. See this right here? It's very, very little. Damage control 6. You can use any distortion plug. You just got to really mess with it. Like this one has endless settings. You can see all these different ones. Gives you a different kind of distortion. For me, got the closest. All these other knobs were for like brightness and different tones. I just played around with it endlessly until it gave me what I wanted. And that, for now, is the drums. So some of the things we'll have to come back and do when we mix. Next is bass. Now, to get this particular sound, once again, there's more than one way to get it, depending on what synths you have. This is just the way I did it. It consists of two things, a bass synth and a sort of tweaked brass layer. We'll start with the bass synth. It's very simple. You can program this with any synth. You take two saw waves. Here's the first one. Here's the second one. Take one saw wave, bring it down an octave. We're not going to be using any filter envelope on this. Use a low pass filter. You're going to bring the filter frequency cutoff down to 317, and that will differ greatly from synth to synth. This is just my number. You can use it as a starting off point and adjust it from there. And then your amp envelope is going to be a real quick attack, 1.2 milliseconds, followed by 4.35 decay, followed by negative 21.8 sustain, and a pretty quick release as well, 13.9 milliseconds, approximately. I put on just a touch of chorus, so little. So little. And that's the synth. Sounds like this. Can't, it just sounds like this sort of warm presence in the mix. So here it is on the keyboard. B, 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 F sharp, octaves. You see both down here and up here. Followed by C sharp, F sharp, F, B. Now we're going to record it. Give myself one measure out. Simple as that. And I like to make kind of long loops so that when I'm recording, I can do a bunch of takes if I have to.